Okay, so you want to own a concrete company. Buy a truck, buy some cement, pour some driveways, watch the money roll in. That's the plan in your head. No fancy product, no picky customers, just gray sludge and cash. Here's the problem. The product you're selling starts dying the second it's made. You have roughly 90 minutes to mix it, drive it, and pour it before it turns into a useless rock inside your own truck. Let's talk about how you actually build this business, and then how the money really moves once it's running. Step 1. Pick your model. There are two very different businesses hiding under the word concrete. One, you can buy ready-mix concrete from someone else and just pour it as a contractor. Two, you can own the batch plant itself and make the concrete from scratch. Owning the plant is the real business we're talking about today, because that's where the actual manufacturing profit lives. A basic batch plant setup can run anywhere from around $100,000 for a small operation up to over $1 million for a serious commercial site. That number swings wildly depending on size, land, and how automated your equipment is. Step 2. The trucks. A concrete plant without mixer trucks is just an expensive pile of gravel. A single new mixer truck typically costs over $100,000. Used trucks cost less, but they come with more maintenance risk. Most real operations need several trucks running at once, since jobs happen at the same time across a city, not one after another. And these aren't trucks you can just hire anyone to drive. Every driver needs a commercial license, usually a Class B CDL, plus an air brake endorsement. You're not just buying trucks. You're buying into a whole licensing and training system before a single yard of concrete ever gets delivered. Step 3. Permits, because this is not a quiet business. Running a batch plant means constant dust, noise, and heavy truck traffic. Most cities require industrial zoning just to put a plant there in the first place. Then comes an air quality permit, because cement dust is a genuinely regulated pollutant in most states. Some states, like California, enforce this especially strictly. Add stormwater and wastewater permits, since rinsing out mixer drums creates runoff loaded with fine particles that can't just flow into a storm drain. Add noise ordinance compliance, since trucks running early morning shifts can trigger complaints fast in populated areas. None of this is optional. Skip one permit, and an inspector can shut your plant down before your first delivery. Step 4. The raw materials, and why prices never sit still. Concrete is made from cement, water, sand, and gravel, called aggregate. Cement is the expensive, chemically processed part. Aggregate is heavier and cheaper, but expensive to transport very far. Cement prices rose about 8% in a single recent year alone, driven by supply chain pressure. That's not a one-time spike. Raw material costs in this industry move constantly, and your pricing has to keep up, or your margin quietly disappears. Okay, the plant is built, the trucks are running, the permits are signed. Now let's talk about how the money actually flows. How the cash comes in. Concrete is sold by the cubic yard. As of right now, ready-mix concrete typically sells for somewhere between $125 and $195 per yard, with a national average landing close to $165 per yard for a full truckload. Order less than a full load, and you get hit with a short load fee, sometimes pushing the price per yard even higher on smaller jobs. Here's the part that explains why owning the plant beats just buying concrete from someone else. If you're buying concrete as a contractor, you might pay around $150 per cubic meter. If you own the plant and produce it yourself, your actual production costs can run as low as $70 to $90 per cubic meter. That gap, roughly $35 to $60 per unit, is where the real profit of this business actually lives. Let's do simple math on that gap. A mid-sized commercial batch plant might produce around 70 cubic meters an hour. Run that 8 hours a day, 25 days a month, and you're looking at roughly 14,000 cubic meters produced in a month. At even a modest margin per unit, that scale turns into real, serious monthly revenue. This is exactly why the plant, not the truck, is the real engine of this business. Now, the costs that eat into that margin. Materials are the biggest chunk, cement and aggregate together, typically the majority of your total cost per yard. Fuel is next. Mixer trucks are heavy, thirsty vehicles, and concrete has to be delivered fast, so there's no waiting around for a cheaper route. Labor is a real cost too. Drivers, batch plant operators, and dispatch staff all get paid whether it's a busy week or a slow one. Equipment maintenance adds up constantly, since a mixer drum spinning wet concrete all day wears down fast. And here's a cost most outsiders never think about: waste. Concrete that isn't used within its window has to be disposed of, and disposal itself is regulated and not free. Every load that doesn't get poured in time is money that already left your pocket for materials, fuel, and labor, with zero revenue coming back. The clock is the real boss of this business. This is the single strangest thing about owning a concrete company. Your product starts a countdown the moment it's mixed. Depending on the mix and weather, you generally have somewhere around 90 minutes before it starts setting up, right there in the drum. Miss that window because of traffic, a late order, or a mechanical delay, and that entire truckload is a total loss. That single fact shapes everything about how this business runs. Dispatch has to be precise. Routes have to be planned tightly. Weather forecasts matter enormously, since rain, extreme heat, and freezing temperatures all change how fast concrete sets and whether a pour is even safe that day. So how much profit is actually left standing? Margins in this industry are thinner than people expect for something that looks like selling rocks. Materials, fuel, labor, and equipment wear eat a large share of every dollar collected per yard. But at scale, with efficient plants and tight routing, the profit per cubic yard adds up into a genuinely strong business, which is exactly why this industry has seen so much consolidation lately. Here's where it gets genuinely surprising. You'd think the biggest companies in this space would be racing to own more concrete plants. The opposite is happening. Several of the largest construction materials companies in the country have actually been selling off their ready-mix concrete operations recently, choosing to focus purely on aggregates instead, the sand and gravel that goes into concrete, rather than the finished product itself. Why would the giants walk away from concrete but keep the aggregates? Because aggregates carry less complexity, less perishability risk, and often steadier margins. Concrete, with its 90-minute countdown clock and constant logistics pressure, is a harder business to run at massive scale than simply mining and selling the raw rock underneath it. 4 things worth knowing. 1. The real profit in this industry lives in owning the plant, not just owning a truck. The gap between buying concrete and producing it yourself is where the money is. 2. Concrete is a genuinely perishable product with a fixed, short countdown clock. That single fact drives almost every operational decision in this business, more than any other single factor. 3. Raw material costs, especially cement, move constantly. A business that doesn't adjust pricing quickly can watch a healthy margin quietly evaporate within a single year. 4. Even some of the biggest players in the industry are choosing to step back from ready-mix concrete itself in favor of the raw aggregate materials underneath it, because the concrete side is genuinely harder to scale profitably. So there it is. Not a business where you buy a truck and watch the money roll in. A business built on permits, perishable timing, and a margin that only really works once you own the plant that makes the product, not just the truck that hauls it. The clock never stops on this business. The moment the mixer starts turning, the countdown already began. If this taught you something you didn't expect, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe for more real breakdowns like this one. And tell me in the comments, would you ever want to own a concrete company? I'll see you in the next one.